This week, the American House of Representatives nearly passed a resolution which would have given official recognition to the genocide of Armenians by Turks during World War II. Speaking through a Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, the Obama administration made it very clear that they strongly opposed this resolution and would block it if it passed. The reason for doing this? He did not want to offend Turkey. In doing this, he showed a complete culturist ignorance and a backwards understanding of the world from a culturist perspective. Now, to be generous, in his mind, what he says he's doing is he's trying to create a world where there's dialogue, where he doesn't anger his friends, where they discuss things, where we come to agreements and we don't mention their crimes and maybe they don't mention our crimes and we eventually, all get along. However, this shows a belief that cultures don't hold, that competition and conflict has ended, that history has stopped. And if you look around the world, you see that there are lots of evidences of us in their land and also jihad against Western targets, including places like India and Thailand that are not loosely affiliated with the West. There is conflict. So if we know this, we have to take sides. Now, Obama, the slip in what he does is that he says that he wants to sort of, be generous and not offend the Turks. However, when he goes to Egypt, when he goes to Turkey and he admits our crimes, he shows that he's only going one direction on this. He's very afraid, very reticent to talk about Islamic crimes, but very happy to talk about our crimes. Implicit in all this, he is acknowledging that narratives are very important. If we are proud of what we do, then the people behind us are going to stand up for our country. We see this, for example, in history, and you'll see this in the world history chapter of Culturism. You'll see that the British Empire expanded when it was very proud of itself. For better or worse, confidence is tied to expansion. And similarly, on the reverse, if he says that we are at fault, they are pristine, we are bad, then he justifies their lording over us moral points. He justifies attacks against us. He justifies people in the West being disaffected with our civilization because our civilization becomes really the most negative civilization. So I have to say that if he's just going to look at our crimes and forgive the Muslim crimes, that he is really not being even-handed. And I have to worry that he's buying into a narrative that is destructive of the West as it is pro-Islam. Also implicit in this idea that he doesn't want to offend Turkey is the reality that he doesn't care about offending Armenia. Now, the Armenians are a Christian nation. And again, if you're a culturist, you see this clash of civilizations model, and you recognize that we actually have a clash between the West and the Muslim world. And if you take this sort of human rights, multicultural, we can all get along point of view, you end up making big mistakes. You end up taking our troops and going in and trying to nation build and pump money into countries like Iraq and Afghanistan that, again, frankly, they're on the other side. They have a cultural background that doesn't lend itself to democracy and progressivism and rights of women and rights for homosexuals and freedom of speech and separation. It doesn't lend itself to all that kind of stuff. So that is, again, a folly of not recognizing cultural differences. Similarly, you end up supporting Islamic states in the West like those in Kosovo. So again, this sort of we are the world, we're not going to take sides kind of model ends up being destructive to us. And if we're only going to take the Muslim side in these dialogues, if we're going to let their narrative rule the world, then we are endangering our very survival. So again, we need to take a culturist perspective. What we need to do is we need to help our friends, we need to back our friends, we need to tell our story. Again, I'm not so big into trying to convert by militarism, but if we say that we're a wonderful country, it gives the Islamic countries a chance to say, maybe that other model is a good model. It makes our people proud. So instead of this we are the world thing, instead of kowtowing to and say we don't want to offend the Muslims, we have to be proud of who we are. We have to speak our truth. That would include saying, Muslims have committed lots of crimes against Christian nations, and we're not happy with it. And again, this would be an example of a culturist perspective as opposed to the Obama perspective of sort of globalism and one-worldism. So if you want to make this perspective well known, whenever you hear about multiculturalism, talk about culturism. And if you say, talking about Muslim crimes is racist, tell people, no. It's culturist. I'm not a globalist. I'm not a multiculturalist. I am a culturist.